You42 podcast.
You to the left is so dumb. I'm myself to the right.
Is that a political joke?
No, it's just dumb is to the left. It's just on the board here. That's what it says.
Don't you dumbs to the left, right?
That's what it says.
Okay, so I'm dead center.
Would you like me to pan you to the right?
I like to
Would that
be
make you
dead
feel
center.
better? No.
I'm a centrist.
I'm not going to put you in the center. So.
Yeah.
Nope, not going to do that.
I go one way or the other. Sometimes both. Up and down. Man, it's hot in here.
So take off all your clothes.
God, you're such an idiot. I'm going to take my hat off, though.
Okay, so, Michael, your middle name is Edward, is that right? I guess.
Yeah, why don't you just divulge all my personal information?
Okay, and your social security number.
And last 10 known addresses.
Michael Flynn. So you are an audio wizard. I think I can name you as an audio.
I'll take
wizard.
that.
Do you accept my title?
I would say he's fourth level, which you don't get much higher than fourth level audio wizard.
Not without sacrificing a human.
Not without sacrificing.
That.
Yes,
Corey, I
that's
think,
what
is
kids
at
do.
the top of the list for the
Ooh.
sacrifices. But anyway, you have been playing music your entire life.
True.
Right? So you're a musician and an audio engineer, sound effects. You've done all of our audio
Yes.
for all the games we've made, and you have maintained a music career. And on top of that, so that's a lot of work, sir.
It's true. It's true. My attention has been divided at all times, and I've never truly been able to give myself over 100% to any one project.
Just
But-
taking little bits and pieces.
Well,
of
if
the
you put it like that, it sounds like a bad thing.
I just have a hard time taking any compliments, but yeah, no. I've been lucky that I've just had by and large, avoided the toiling of adulthood wherein you just have a job that has no personal meaning to you, and you just go and you donate those hours of your life to this random company or whatever. I know a lot of people do that. There's plenty of nobility in that, but somehow I've made it now pretty deep into adulthood without having to do that. I just do these things that I take great joy in, and so far I haven't run out. And at this point, the game now becomes, can I make it all the way? And
Yeah, that's the pit that I fear every moment of my
right.
life.
reality.
There is definitely stress in lived a bit of a dream, getting to do these creative projects and make games and videos and stuff. These fun things that would be meaningless when in a nuclear winter when people with helpful skills would dominate the economy, and rightly so.
What did you do in your former life before the nuclear
Yeah.
warfare?
Are you sad, little boy? May I sing you a song? That's how I'll contribute to the village.
Yeah, that's the reality outside the door.
Right.
Is my boogeyman, for sure. Oh man, so we just got right to
I
the
guess
bottom.
so. Sorry. I just bear hugged both of you and jumped into the bottom of the ocean. Just come with me.
Yeah, that was awful. Yeah, let's try not
All
to do
right.
that again. Okay, well, I wanted to ask you. This is something I think we've talked about. I don't know. We've known each other a lot longer than this experience
Right.
is. I wanted to ask you what the process is. So, like, when you're writing a song just for music, I wanted to know like how personal it is. I was wondering where the source is.
Well, it's different every time, and it's different if I'm writing, if there's like an assignment for, or if I'm just writing as, it's just the personal expression variety of songwriting. But generally, so I keep a list. Anytime I think of a phrase or a title or an image, just anything that could be lyrically interesting, and I'm constantly adding to that list. And so the best songs usually come from an idea first of like, oh, that would make a good title, or that would make a great idea for a song. And so there's like this central idea that is informing the song, and it's not just, okay, I need something that rhymes with Pakistan or whatever. And so that's the best way. The second best way is musically, I'll make something interesting happening, just playing around on the computer or just at a piano or whatever. And then I'll pull the list up and just start scrolling and see if any of the words could plug into the melody. You know, you kind of have to have the stresses of the syllables and everything line up so that it's not unnatural. And it sort of a fill in the blank puzzle to see if any of these phrases or ideas or lines could fit in this song. And then as soon as I get one of those, then that's like the road I go down. I'm like, okay, I got it. I know what this is going to kind of be about. I can build these other lines based off the structure of this one line. And then I get to the new section and I want to contrast the section I was just in. And sometimes I go back, I'm like, oh yeah, I have this chorus from this thing I wrote 3 years ago that never went anywhere. I can poach that.
Right, so over time you get parts and pieces that you sort of Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's very, I just kind of, I'm constantly shopping in the thrift store of my mind.
But there's so it's not necessarily a personal
It's
thing.
not usually
It's just
like,
sort of,
it's not, no, the personal aspect of it you see after the fact. Like for me, I've got my writer hat on and I'm just trying to write a song that's about something. And then afterwards I'll look back and say, oh, that was totally about this thing that happened to me that I was like processing in the back of my brain and not consciously thinking about. I never write songs starting with, okay, I want to express my displeasure with, or I want to express this feel. I have this feeling, and I got to get it out and just say how I'm feeling. It's always like I think I'm writing fiction, and then when I look back, it is 100% nonfiction.
Coming from a place that you may not even know exists necessarily in your consciousness.
So is the process, because this sounds like it's more of, for personal projects, but is it kind of the same thing, Michael, if you're given an assignment for a certain type of sound for a piece, do you still kind of go through that same process, or is it not as organic, maybe?
So it depends, but generally that is more of like a puzzle solving. It almost uses like the other side of the coin where I don't have to discern what it's going to be about. I already have some characteristics that are boxing me in, so the myriad of actual choices is narrowed to like a manageable clump that I can kind of work off of. And so, I wrote a song. I got a request to submit for this hospital a few weeks ago, where we're looking for songs to play in their commercials and on the TVs in their waiting rooms and stuff. And they wanted specific emotions about sort of strength and community and helping each other out and empathy and stuff like that. So I tried to basically narrow my choices to those things and then write something that wasn't completely dissociated from my own emotions. I sort of pictured myself in the waiting room, or what I would want to say to somebody who was in the waiting room or whatever. And down that road I went. If I'm writing music for a game or something, it's much, much more narrow. It needs to be this length. These are the characteristics of the level. This is volcano and there's bones everywhere. So, okay, I'm going to put marimba on there because that always just sounds like volcano level bones. And so instrumentation and all those things are very much dictated by the scene that I'm writing to. Same thing for a film or anything with visuals. Then it's completely complementary to a separate thing, and I'm solving the puzzle of how do I make the music that will make that visual thing as powerful as possible.
Sometimes you may not even get the full visuals until maybe ever.
Right. No, it's usually music comes very towards the end of the pipeline of things. Music is usually sound and audio, sound and and music come towards the end, but music I usually start first when it's a game because the audio, the sound effects are usually dependent on animations and things that are still being made. I can look at the concept art for a level and I can see what the vibe is. And it's purely vibe driven for those type things.
One thing you really have a knack for is making something that just sticks in your head, which is
It's tricky because in pop music or as a singer-songwriter, I'm trying to write memorable things. And for in-game music, like things that are not necessary, like the title screen, whatever, that's like a song. You want it to be memorable. When it's the game level, you are trying to thread the needle of not so memorable that it becomes annoying when it loops 10 times. So it has to be.
Gotcha.
So I've honed these inclinations towards something catchy and memorable, and then I have to and sometimes I'll literally build a whole track and then I'll just mute the most memorable parts so that. The rhythm and the chord progression is still there, but the melody and the counter melody I just took out because those are like the signposts that tell the listener, we're going back around to this again. Okay.
I was wondering if you could just tell everybody that doesn't know you or haven't known you for most of their lives, like me, a little bit about you when you started playing music, just like a skim the pond of your music career.
Collect the algae from the top of the pond and toss it in your face. So 3rd grade, my mom I had 2 brothers. We each had to take piano lessons starting in 3rd grade. So 3rd to 5th grade, I took piano, and then I took an extra year because I noticed that I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy lessons, but I enjoyed playing. And so then I took an extra year in 5th grade, and then I quit. And then in 6th grade, my friends wanted to start a band. I was like, sweet, I'll play the keyboards. This was in the hair metal late period, 80s.
They were big on piano.
Well, at least they had keys. Then grunge happened, and I was just looking for work for about 5 or 6 years there. No one wanted any keys at all.
That'd be lonely for a young
Oh, it
piano
was.
player.
Thank God for Tori Amos, and then later Ben Folds. And I was like, okay, there's some people doing it.
There's some people there.
Who's resurrecting it?
So anyway, yeah, and then I played music in high school. I was in a band, and then I had to quit because I got bad grades. And then I went to college and majored in English, but played in bands, played a lot of shows with you. Who is an extraordinary drummer that you'll probably never hear because he's like the drummer in the White Castle. He hoards his genius to himself. But oh my God! After college, I didn't want to grow up, so I went to music school in Boston for a couple of years, and then
that's when we split. That kind of broke my heart because you went to music school and I went to art school.
I know, yeah.
Oh, you guys.
Sorry, that was a sad moment.
I know, tears coming down.
And it's funny because, I have so many friends musicians who were. It kind of made me sad that your ambition was pointed in another direction when. I had so many musicians who were friends who were more ambitious about music, who were worse than you. But anyway, I digress. So, after college, I moved back to Charleston and started playing around in a band there, and ended up signing a record deal and some publishing deals, and toured the country and Europe, and got some songs on some TV shows and commercials and stuff like that. Just stayed thoroughly under the radar, but had enough success to sort of carve out a middle-class existence just with music. So really lucky for that. And then I guess however many years ago it was, 10 years ago, you and I started this game company, and thanks to us having been roommates and you having firsthand knowledge of just how nerdy about video games I got roped into this thing, and then
But you went to
Yeah.
Berkeley School of Music in Boston, yeah.
I did.
What was that? What was that like? Like when Corey and I were in art school, we'd have to draw something or sculpt something or whatever. We would stand in front of the class and show it to them, and then defend
Yeah.
ourselves against critiques. Did you do critiques?
We
in music
did.
school?
You were not allowed to defend yourself on the day when your song was being judged or whatever because it was so counterproductive. So it was sort of like you just take the feedback that like your contribution was making the thing, and then you're not allowed to because art is so personal and music. I mean, people write these songs and they feel. I saw people storm out of class because their feelings got hurt because someone was
Right,
critical
yeah.
about some aspect of their song. And you can't dissociate yourself. And there, a lot of people at music school who with big dreams about who they're supposed to be and who they've dreamed they would be since they were kids, and so. So there was a lot of that, but I always liken it to Hogwarts, and I don't know if SCAD was the same way, where for the first time I was around people who got me on. We understood each other on a level that I had never experienced with the broader, Muggle public. It was like suddenly we're at parties and we're listening to a Beatles song. And a jam session breaks out, or at least some nerdy harmonic analyzing. Listen to the key change right here. Yeah, it's okay. Just the nerdiest music stuff. But suddenly, like everybody got it, and so I felt a lot less weird, and also a lot more positive about my own sort of creative journey because I did really well there as far as songwriting goes. I got second place in the John Lennon songwriting thing. I got to meet Yoko Ono, and I just got a lot of respect from my peers as far as asking for help with them writing songs, and just sort of it was hugely inspirational, and everyone there was so like motivated. There was very few people there, and I don't know if SCAD was the same way, but there were not very many people there who were like, well, I just had to go to college, so here I am. I'm undecided. I don't know what I'm doing. Like everybody there is passionate about what they're there for, and they consciously chose this place because of that. And so you're just like, you get so caught up in the enthusiasm and the ambition of everybody, and it's extremely inspiring. I've learned far more from my classmates than I did from my teachers.
Being a musician, I'm pretty sure you've been a bunch of different places. Of all the places you've been, is there one that's kind of memorable to you?
To me, any place becomes wallpaper eventually. So,
Right.
I can't. I mean, to me, like I've toured in Canada, like French. Canada was amazing. Europe was all these places are inspiring, but mainly just because I don't live there. And so the constant change, the constant upheaval of new surroundings, like when you're on tour or whatever, is the best thing as opposed to like one single place. I mean, I feel like there were, times when we just stopped in just some random small abandoned town in Kansas and just to stop and eat on our drive in between cities, where I would feel totally inspired and like, oh, I could just get a room here and just start a life here, just a room with a typewriter, and I don't know, just be the weird guy in the coffee shop. So I think anywhere is really like that. And I think schools and like Nashville and a lot of places where you're surrounded, like there's this feeling of community and acceptance that you're not the weird one that sticks out at your high school, but there's also an element of competition of like you're inspired, like, you hear someone and you're like, damn, that's better than me. I couldn't, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's the bar now. And then you want to hit that bar just to prove it to yourself, or I started writing my own songs in high school, but I didn't. The first time I sang in public was at this. I went to a fine arts camp in Brevard. This super intense moment I'll never forget. It was like a sort of like a open mic night kind of thing at a barn on campus, and I played this song, and it's not a good song. You know, this was like junior year of high school, Michael, and not a lot of depth there, but I did it, and the reaction afterwards was like so positive, and these moments where you just wish that all of life could feel as good as that moment feels right then. And that was definitely a seminal moment for me.
Brevoy, did you say that was a bar or a barn?
Barn.
Yeah, maybe it was just the wine coolers talking, but I think everybody really likes my song.
Good night, man. My anxiety would have just been through the roof.
Yeah.
The worst part for me is just the banter. Like when the actual song is happening.
You're really good at that. You were always really good at that.
I've been to a few of your shows, and your audience participation is supreme.
So it's my least favorite part. If I could pay a stand-up comedian to just talk, do all the talking, and I could play behind a sheet, then that would be my preference.
What moment was like the one moment where you were like, well, it could have been you were playing. Is there one moment where you thought, okay, this is the peak of my music career? You know what I mean?
Well, there are certainly
more than one, probably.
Well, yeah, there is, because as you advance, like these plateaus happen where you're like, I don't know if this is going to be the peak or not. This is the peak so far for sure. And then only in hindsight do you look back and be like, oh yeah, that was it. That was it didn't get any better after that.
Right.
So
well, New Horizons, right?
Right. The first time I really went on tour, and we opened for Jump Little Children, and we're playing for 500 to 1,000 people a night. It was my first time in front of that many people, and man, we were just crushing it. Like they were. I mean, their audience in particular is super sweet. When all the people are facing you, it doesn't take that many clapping for you to feel like, oh boy, this is amazing. Okay, drink it in.
Soak it up.
And so that was just a 2-week tour, but I could relive those 2 weeks over and over and over. At that point, we had already been talking with a label, and this long period in my 20s of sort of not knowing if anything would happen, or did I blow it by making the life choices I did that put me on this path, and then starting to feel real, like there was a mounting body of evidence that I wasn't crazy. That was the best feeling. And it's funny how it never fully goes away, that the insecurities of you make a thing and you don't know if it's good or not, or you don't know what people are going to say about it. Yeah. And you never, I mean, it just, so many, I know so many people more successful than me, and they all experience that same anxiety. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just part of the process.
Yeah, I think if you are trying to be successful as an artist, you got to always kind of have that bit of anxiety there. And I think it kind of pushes you in a way.
Yep.
If you just definitely having that little voice in the back of your head to kind of like spur you on.
Wait, you have voices in your head?
I got a few, but I try to keep them at bay.
So surprising. Okay, let's see. What else?
I was going to ask.
Oh, please. Ask.
Not to put all your business out there, Flynn, but I know that you have a little one, and I was just curious if you, like, your outlook on possibly her taking up the mantle being a supreme musician.
Here's the keyboard.
Wizard, warrior.
Across the table.
The next evolution of the Flynn. Wizard.
She tried to grab my keyboard one day, and I yanked it out of her hand, and I got down in her face, and I tapped her on the forehead, and I said, "First learn how to use this, then I'll teach you how to use this." And I pointed to the keyboard, and then I gave myself a high five because I had just quoted Braveheart to my 3-year-old child. No, I don't suspect. I find so many of our parenting decisions revolve around how can we handle this so that it doesn't create something that she'll either feel pressure from or feel compelled to rebel against.
Right.
Like if I try and be some kind of showbiz dad, I feel like I'm going to mess her up or ruin music for her.
Right.
And that's how we are about a lot of different things. So when she says she wants to write a song, then I hold her up to the microphone and she sings it in there.
I know some parents, whether it's sports or music or whatever, can be a little bit more, we done invested this much time, going to continue it on. But it seems as though your parents had kind of a similar outlook. Like if it's something that you and your brothers enjoy, then you'll latch onto it. If not, it is what it is. I think that's kind of like a good thing too, not being so forceful.
And you don't want, but you also don't want to like, hey, just give up on anything you don't that doesn't feel awesome. You're like, I want her to power through on things and follow through on things she's committed to doing.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know how you make it. There is no making it through all those minefields without setting a few minds off. So
Gotcha.
I'm just trying to minimize the damage.
Minimize.
That's literally everything I do in my life. I'm just trying to minimize the damage.
That's right.
I constantly remind myself that one day I'll be nostalgic for this, whatever,
Right. Yes, absolutely.
I very often, just as a mental exercise, put real energy into pretending that I time traveled, 80-year-old me time traveled back into present day me's body.
That's a really good.
And I try to like look at everything through those eyes and be like, holy cow, our beautiful house and my family and everybody's alive and healthy, and
Right.
just the amount of appreciation you would have for just the things, the wallpaper in your life now.
Right.
It's so easy to not notice that, and then end up, right now you're like nostalgic for your childhood or your early adulthood, and one day you'll be nostalgic for your for your middle age.
I think having kids really amplifies that for humans.
Yeah. Because they grow up so quick, and suddenly time is racing, and you want to slow it down. You start calculating things from the end point by like, okay, we had her when I was this age. I'll probably die around this age if I'm lucky. That gives us this many years together. And then, you think, why didn't I have a kid earlier so that number could be bigger?
Right. And you try your best not to dwell on it, but it does.
Right.
It slowly
I think it's
starts
healthy to not dwell, not obsess over it, but
Right.
for sure to like
acknowledge it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, to experience life with that as the thing that's sort of just behind you, and to help you kind of properly value what you've got.
Well, that's also sad. What are you doing right now? Are you working on other stuff? Are you working on another album or?
I am. I'm writing. So, at the same time, I'm trying to do a lot of. I live in the mountains, and I got some land, and I'm trying to kind of like.
You got mountain man business.
Oh my God! It's such a. I have my own little Zen garden back there where I've got hiking trails and creeks and ponds and stuff that I'm kind of trying to resuscitate, and so that's my therapy. So I'm doing a fair bit of that, and while trying to write. But see, I don't sit for a long time to write. I'll sit for 15 minutes, and if nothing's doing, then I'll go outside, go out in the woods and not think about it, and then come back in and try again, and just do that over and over and over.
Yeah, something I asked you, I think the last time I saw you, we were talking about how sometimes you just can't play. Like you just can't, and you just sit down and it just won't come out. Or it comes out and it's just all messed up, and you just have to walk away for the day. Right.
And you can, I had a English teacher a writer who is, he was like, every minute that you put in on the work gets you 1 minute closer to your next great idea, even if that minute wasn't spent working on the great idea. You're like working through stuff, and you're kind of, you're pounding the rock, and then give it a break, and then come back and keep pounding.
Yeah. Well, my battery is about to die, and you got stuff to do, I'm sure. So you enjoy the mountains, sir.
That's right, Mountain Man. Always good talking to you, Michael.
Yeah.
You guys enjoy the flood zone.
Oh, man. All right. Thank you.
Couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
Jabs. See you,
All right,
man.
see you, Michael.
See ya.
Bye.
What are we doing now? What else is there to talk about?
I don't know. There's nothing to
Let's
talk
talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and about things that can be. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that little movie.
This has been the U42 podcast.